Alright, this is devlog number 1 for my video game called Dungeon Rogue. That is still a working title, I'm not sure what to call it. This game is inspired from the original Rogue game, which was a console-based game, as in text-based game. Um, and, well, I'll show you what I've done so far. So I've created a menu system where this is like a menu where there's text above the menu, and then at the bottom there's more text that displays the different type of options that I can pick, and then I can use the arrow keys or WASD to move around the arrow, the pointer, and I can press enter to select an option. So in this case, I'll press start. Map size, we'll just go with that. And, name it Ripper. Bam, starts the game off. Okay, so first of all, this tells you the border. This is like the border. This is basically the size of the entire map, right there to there. And we start off in a room. We can start off with in any free space. That is an enemy unit. Um, and if you actually move using the WSD keys, the unit also moves. And right there is vision. Uh, there's vision in this game. Just how is vision supposed to work? It's self-explanatory. Um, and if I actually go back, I'll go to the right. I'll move here, and then the opponent will move onto me, engaging us in combat. And this combat is not like roguelike. This is more turn-based combat, where this battle menu pops up, and you have to basically battle each other um, using the battle menu. So I can skip, I can move, or I can punch the enemy for 1 damage. And the weapon that I have right now is none, which is just bear, right? And the enemy weapon has a steel sword. Steel sword, I don't know what it can do right now, but it will tell me when I make my action what the bandit has chosen to do with his weapon. So this, by the way, this is the range of the weapon. So right now, of course, the distance is 2, and if I actually move right here, if I do -2, by the way, the speed tells me how many units I can move. So I can move up to 2 units. If I do like 3, -3, I can't do that. It's not gonna let me move higher than 3 or lower than -3. But if I do something like 2, it'll move me to closer to the enemy. And if I do -2, it'll move me further from the enemy. So I can just go 2, and now the distance is 0, and I've used up all my speed. I can skip the turn, but I'm not gonna. I'm gonna punch the enemy for 1 damage, right? And so he lost 1 health. But then this tells me my actions right here, and then over here is the bandit's action, where he swung his sword for 3 damage, and it cost him 1 stamina, right? That's why he's at 1 now, and that's the range of his weapon, which is 3. And I've been knocked down to 7 health, and so I can keep, of course, punching him, and he can keep doing the same thing, right? And I'll beat him. And there he dropped 5 gold. Now I have 5 gold, but he also dropped all of his items. If I look, he had his steel sword, which now I can equip. He had fur boots. He also had wooden chest plate. He had rubber sleeves, and then he had cloak pants, which is awesome. We also have 4 arrows, which we can use for a wooden bow. If I actually find a different enemy. By the way, this is another opponent, or not an opponent. This is another unit, but it's a friendly unit. And if I collide with it, it'll actually be like, hey, I've got some items you might be interested in, and then I can like purchase. Basically, a traveling merchant, and then I can press end to end the convo. And of course, each unit has its unique AI system on how it moves. Basically, the battling is a turn-based, basically turn-based strategy game when you're battling an enemy, and when you're not, when you're on the mini map or this map, it turns into more like a. It still is a turn-based strategy game, but it's not battling. You cannot die, or you cannot die or kill your enemy, um, like on the map, right? So like if the enemy collides with you, it's not like you're instantly dead. The only way you can die is through battle. So you can be really cheeky and like try to avoid as many enemies as possible, because some enemies actually have different viewing capabilities. Some can see through walls, some cannot, and some can only see through in a specific range. Um, So I'm just looking for the exit here. It's basically a tunnel, and you can only go through the tunnel once, which you enter into, there it is, into another dungeon, right? And you place somewhere random. And now an orc should spawn. If I can find the orc. For debugging purposes, I like to turn off the vision and just have the entire map visible, just so I don't have to go searching like this. Where the heck is the orc? What? He's hidden quite well. What the heck? There he is. Okay, so the orc usually moves in a clockwise. Well, it moves in a clockwise direction. But he's over here. There we go. We're engaged in battle. We're fighting an orc. His weapon of choice is Tree Hammer. He has a lot of health and a lot of stamina, but he'll actually kill us because we're only at full health, and I know what his weapons can do. In this case, we're gonna use the wooden bow, and we can actually shoot 2 arrows for 10 damage, and then cost 4 stamina. The range is 6, so the distance between us is 2. It's always 2 when we start, and we have 4 arrows right here. So if we actually use the 2 arrows to kill him instantly, we'll also use 2 arrows right there. And then he should have dropped his tree hammer right there. And then we can go to the exit. If I can remember where the exit was. That I cannot. Oh, there it is. There. See, he goes in a clockwise direction always. That's the pattern. I usually want to give enemies predictable patterns, just so there isn't like an RNG infinite loop where you're waiting for the enemy to go someplace, but he just doesn't. He refuses to go that way. So I want to make the like the movement somewhat predictable, and if you get enough close enough range, they actually follow you. The pathfinding algorithm I implemented is A star. I'm not sure if it's the most efficient in this case. I will probably implement different types, or at least optimize the A star pathfinding algorithm. But right now it works, and if you engage battle with him, he has a tree hammer. I have a tree hammer. These are the two options that I can do. Swing for 5 damage, cost 3 stamina, range 4. Smash for 8 damage, cost 5 stamina, range 4. I cannot kill him with both. I'm gonna have to take out my wooden bow, use the remaining arrows, and I have no more arrows, and I kill him. And then yeah, they drop everything in their inventory, and then also drop all of their gold. So if I obviously don't want something given to the player, I can just remove those items from the inventory, and then they will not drop. And so that's how I'm gonna manage dropping items. Oh yeah, I can press tab to like go between menus, right? And then I can press Q to go back to the map and be able to control my player. So yeah. There's ammo, of course. The different kind of boots allow for different amounts of speed, which means you can move more. There's also enchantments, like some like fireballs may ignite and ignite an enemy, or even you if it's used against you to catch on fire. And then this is the step's duration, so like how many turns does it last. And then over here I of course enchant it, and then I put an event. Every time the step happens, we damage it, damage the affected character by this much damage of this damage type, which is magical. Fire is magic damage, magical damage. There's three types of damage types. There's physical damage, there's magical damage, and then there's electrical damage. You may have noticed there's also 3 types of resources. There is to show you here. There is stamina, mana, and energy. Stamina usually deals physical damage. Mana usually deals magical damage, and energy usually deals electrical damage. Stamina can be regened. Mana can also be regened. Energy most likely will not. That might change, of course, in the course of the development, but I'm thinking it cannot be. And the only way that you can gain energy is by like finding capacitors and then using those capacitors to store energy. And then if you use those energies, it's not replenished. You have to find like more items to be able to replenish the energy. Um, and of course, you could permanently increase how much you can hold of the energy, but you won't be able to regen it, um, unless if you have like an item like solar panels or something equipped on you. But stuff like enemy units, they might be able to. Like if they're a cyborg, I might give them the ability to regen energy, and then like through cyborgs, they might drop electrical capacitors, and then you can use those electric capacitors once, and they're consumed. Consumed. Like potions are to be consumed, but a potion can be like an electrical. It can be anything that is consumable. That's pretty much it. Right. So like an electrical capacitor, if it's consumable, I'll name it a potion. It doesn't have to be potion in name. It just means that if you use it, it's going to be consumed. And so yeah, that's what potions are for. And then items are like anything that doesn't fit between all these other categories. So like ammunition, I didn't bother creating a another list for it. I don't think there's a reason for it right now. That might change depending on how many items I add. But right now, the ammunition is just added right here. And also, I need to do something about duplicate drops. Like if you beat a bunch of enemies and you get a bunch of duplicates, like you might be able to just sell them to the merchant for gold, but sometimes it becomes tedious where you're like, well, I can sell them for gold, but the cost is so less that there's no point. I'd rather just not pick them up in the first place. So I might make it so you can loot the enemy, and I'm not sure if I want to give a max capacity of inventory, like a max capacity for the inventory yet. I'm not sure. It could be like an extra, of course, restriction, which is awesome, but it can also be tedious. I don't want to make it tedious, right? Um, but can help make the player be more decisive in terms of what they want to keep and what they don't want to keep, and what they think will benefit them in the long run and what won't. Um, so there are good reasons to add it. I might implement it maybe in the next devlog. It'll be implemented. Who knows? Um, but as of now, I'm going to be making a bunch of items. I'm just gonna populate myself with a bunch of more items and then also more units, hopefully, so that we can actually play this game. Because right now there aren't many units at all, right? I haven't implemented them in the actual in the game so you can battle them. Anyway, that's all for now. Um, I'll catch you in the next devlog.